Good afternoon. Today is the 12th of March. Not only is the light a lot better today, we've also got considerably better weather. And I'm just as glad as I didn't get into a white Jaguar because we're going to be talking about one of the most classic pieces of stock footage ever seen in 1960s and 70s television series. It's called the ITC or Elstree White Jaguar footage. And I really hope you enjoy this explanation of it. So as you know, in the 1960s, a lot of ITC series were made by a producer called Monty Berman, who had originally started on The Saint and made, in addition to that, Gideon's Way, The Baron, The Champions, Department S, Randall and Hawkirk Deceased, and finally The Adventurer, which finished in, I think, 1974. He was well known for taking shortcuts in terms of budget and things like that. And in 1965, towards the beginning of the sort of first few episodes of The Baron, he filmed a series at Box Hill near Dorking in Surrey for an episode which was of the Baron series, and then filmed some other footage for a different episode called "And Suddenly You're Dead." There was a white Jaguar that went off a cliff and also a red Renault. We're not entirely sure whether or not these were filmed on the same day or something. The light looks a little bit different, but we'll get into more of how this was used in the future now. So the footage that was taken of the white Jaguar in the episode, which is called "And Something for a Rainy Day," the Jaguar that's mainly used in that episode that you see the characters driving around, it belongs to Derek Newark and Patrick Allen, if any of you know who those two are. They're sort of stalwarts of ITC series. Theirs was a Mark II, but the Jaguar that's sent off the cliff is clearly a Mark I. And it goes off a cliff and crashes into the bottom. The film was done from several different angles. So you see the Jaguar appearing differently in different TV series because they filmed it with at least 5 or 6 different cameras, including one that actually went over the cliff. It was mounted inside the car. It was like an automatic camera, and they thought it might actually be destroyed, but it wasn't, and that they were able to retrieve the film. The Renault Dauphine that was filmed for the episode "And Suddenly You're Dead," that was a bit more limited, and from what I can see of the filming, it was done at a slightly darker time. Although when you get to see the other series that this footage appears in, sometimes it's day, sometimes it's night. They just stick a night filter on it if they want it to be at night. So a lot of credit for this video idea goes to my friend Alan Hayes, who runs a wonderful site I'll link to in the description called Randall and Hawkirk Declassified, because the white Jaguar footage was also used in Randall and Hawkirk Deceased in an episode called "It's Supposed to Be Thicker Than Water." And he actually lists every single time that the red Renault and the white Jaguar footage appears in any series, because it was used right up until the mid-1990s. It's unbelievable. Let me just read to you what some of this appeared in. So we've got The Baron, The Saint, The Champions, Randall and Hawkirk Deceased, Department S, Jason King, The Adventurer, and then other series that aren't made by ITC like Follyfoot, the Benny Hill Show, Father Ted, Toonces the Driving Cat from Saturday Night Live, and finally of all, there's an episode well, it wasn't an episode, it was a one-off thing called The Preventers. It was a spoof of old ITC series broadcast in 1996. I highly recommend you watch that if you can find it online somewhere. If you're a fan of ITC series, it's a wonderful send-up of that stuff. And of course, they used the footage in that because it's a running joke. The Red Renault footage was used in The Baron, as I said, The Saint again, The Champions, Department Test, Persuaders, and The Benny Hill Show. So it was very, very significant, this particular footage. It was used in so much stuff. And I'll talk a little bit more now about how they did it. So when filming for the episode Something for a Rainy Day in, we think, November or December 1965, the production crew on The Baron used 4 different Jaguars. One was a Mark 1 that actually went off. Sorry, I'm reading this information from a Renault Dauphine site here. One was a Mark 1 went off the cliff. One was a Mark 2 used in the episode. And they actually used some others as well. They used Renault Dauphine, they used a different one. To supplement the footage later on, they filmed another episode of The Baron called Time to Kill, where they used footage filmed at Ivanhoe Beacon in Buckinghamshire, where the chase sequence for Something from a Rainy Day had been filmed originally. They spliced the 2 bits of footage together to look like it was the same place, but it was Ivanhoe Beacon in the chase sequence, and then the car goes off the cliff at Box Hill near Dorking. And in May 1966, they filmed an episode called Time to Kill, where they made it look as if it was in Spain, but of course it wasn't. They just slapped a Spanish plate on a Jaguar Mark 1. And so you see footage in these episodes that was all taken from different places. They even added a bit more in 1968 for Department S and Round Hocket Deceased. I think it was filmed for the episode called Who Plays the Dummy. But it's so obvious to people who've got a DVD or even a Blu-ray player that all this is being spliced from different places and different cars. But nevertheless, it probably seemed quite impressive. And Monty Berman, wanting to save money, probably thought that, we're going to make as much of a deal about this as possible. So this is why it was used in something like 11 different episodes of these ITC series, probably even more than that. If you count properly. And then, right away up through to the mid-90s, other productions used it. Hammer House of Horror, for example, which was in 1984, I think. So it was a running joke. If every time you saw anybody get into a Mark 1 or Mark 2 white Jaguar and on British television right away through to the mid-1990s, you knew they were going to be in trouble. And equally for the Baron episodes, and Suddenly You're Dead, with the Renault Dauphine. If you ever saw anybody driving a Renault Dauphine, or in some cases it's a Ford Granada or it's an Alfa Romeo Giulietta Spider, they make it look, they're sort of roughly like the Renault. If anybody you saw sort of being pushed off a cliff, it's that footage. It's so ubiquitous, it's not even funny really. So they obviously made a fair bit of money from this, and took the time to make it look proper, I suppose. One thing they didn't do was put an automatic camera inside the Renault. So every time you see somebody driving from their point of view going off the cliff, it's still the Jaguar, and the Renault or whatever it is suddenly has a white bonnet, which isn't great. But if you're on a little screen in the 60s or 70s and your television's got bad reception, and you're not really going to sort of worry much. There's only people like me who later have come to it and scrutinise it carefully, but you can actually tell exactly what's going on. So I hope you found that video interesting. I'll link in the description below to Renault Declassified site. And I'll also link to somebody who's put a YouTube video of all the clips he could find together, so you can see exactly what I'm talking about, because it probably doesn't make a lot of sort of sense, just me sort of saying words. So I hope you found the video useful anyway. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to leave a comment below, and to leave us a like. My website is www.lloydvehicleconsulting.co.uk. My Facebook page is facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. Very happy to source a car for any of you. It doesn't have to be a Jaguar, particularly not one that's going to reach out off a cliff. Thank you ever so much indeed for watching.